Hello, my name is Elisabeth Yerkes, and I'm a graduate of Cohort 1905 at the Center for Homeland Defense and Security. For my thesis, I wanted to focus on closing the gaps on some of the greatest issues facing child sexual abuse material, or CSAM, investigations. Every year, millions of horrific images depicting acts of child sexual abuse are shared, transmitted, created, uploaded, or disseminated. Although child sexual abuse material has existed online since the advent of the internet, in recent years there has been an explosion of child sexual abuse material proliferating the internet. There are many causes of this dramatic increase, including better detection methods, collaboration with online platforms and social media companies, and more available methods to share and disseminate child sexual abuse material. As the ability to share this horrific content on the internet expands, so does the demand for more graphic and sadistic material. Every time an image is possessed or disseminated, it not only impacts the victim of the images, it also feeds the demand for more material and leads to more victims being sexually abused. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or NCMEC's, Child Victim Identification Program has reviewed over 322 million images and videos of child sexual abuse material. Law enforcement officers and analysts who investigate these images are completely overwhelmed. When a new image is detected, it takes a great deal of time and expertise in order to follow clues to determine where the image was created, the identities of the perpetrator and victims in the images, as well as where the image was uploaded and where it has been sent. But it is essential to review these images in order to not only stop those transmitting the material, but also to stop sexual abuse, rescue victims, and arrest those sexually abusing these children. From the 322 million images reviewed by the Child Victim Identification Program, over 19,100 victims were successfully identified by law enforcement officers. Despite the incredible efforts by law enforcement, victim advocates, and civilian partners around the globe, the number of images being transmitted online continues to grow. The number of images detected has skyrocketed over the years and continues to increase. In 2014, the number of reported images broke 1 million for the first time. In 2016, NCMEC received 8.2 million reports, but by 2019, that number more than doubled to 16.9 million reports, comprising of over 69.1 million images, videos, and files. Due in part to the COVID pandemic, in 2020, there was a massive spike with over 21.7 million reports. Increased efforts and technology used to locate these images enables electronic service providers to remove and report the detected images. However, as the number of detected images grows, so does the need for law enforcement to have the ability to fully investigate each image. Seeing this disturbing trend led me to explore different methods to combat this growing issue. After studying the greatest challenges to combating CSAM and locating victims, potential solutions and opportunities presented itself through the research. Law enforcement officers who investigate child sexual abuse material report some of the greatest challenges to investigations include the high volume of images, the amount of time it takes to review a single image, and locating images being disseminated online. After concluding my research, many of the commonly cited issues were centered around lack of individuals needed to properly investigate the images. Each newly discovered image could require dozens of hours to locate where the abuse occurred, the identity of the victim, identity of the perpetrator, and the identity of the individual who shared, downloaded, received, or created the images. Due to finite resources, many agencies do not have the ability to conduct in-depth investigations into the images themselves. Officers have reported feeling overwhelmed, not only by the amount of images, but also the difficult nature of the images themselves. The disturbing nature of the images, combined with the high volume and stress of combating child sexual abuse material, can lead to secondary post-traumatic stress disorder, burnout, and high turnover. Additionally, there were reported insufficient opportunities to obtain and train on the ever-evolving and costly technology needed to investigate the images. While increasing funds to agencies to hire more full-time officers would help, the amount of new staff needed to investigate the images could cost in the billions of dollars, and there is a limit to how many additional persons can be hired full-time. Historically, when resources are tight, law enforcement agencies seek out the use of volunteers, including volunteers with highly specialized skills, to supplement resources. These investigations and the magnitude of the problem could benefit through the use of skilled volunteers. There are people all over the world with the skills, passion, and dedication needed to assist law enforcement in their investigations. Further, there is no need for volunteers to view the actual sexual abuse to assist in the investigation. For example, the volunteers could research the objects found in the background of images in order to ascertain the location of where the offense occurred. Law enforcement agencies around the world already seek public assistance through crowdsourcing when in need of new leads. They seek public assistance when trying to ascertain the identity of perpetrators of sexual violence in images, or the location of where the abuse occurred. In the United States, the FBI posts images to their website as a part of the Endangered Child Alert Program, or ECAP, to seek the public's help to identify unknown individuals involved in the sexual abuse of children and the production of child sexual abuse material. In Europe, Stop Child Abuse, Trace an Object is a crowdsourcing campaign operated by Europol, which seeks public information to help in their investigations into child sexual abuse by posting objects found in the background of images in hopes that someone will recognize the object or will use open source material to assist in the identification of the object. After concluding my examination of the needs of investigators and how volunteers can be utilized to assist law enforcement and supplement insufficient resources, I arrived at the following research question. What are the advantages and disadvantages of using citizen volunteers to help investigate child sexual abuse material? I selected policy analysis as my research design in order to determine if law enforcement agencies could use civilians to assist in their investigations. And if so, what is the most effective policy to incorporate civilians going forward? As a part of my research design, I compared 3 different policies: maintain the status quo, establishing a national crowdsourcing model, which would allow law enforcement agencies to put calls for assistance out to the general public, and a national volunteer program, which would employ a formal program using dedicated and trained volunteers to assist in investigations. I compared each program against 5 criteria. Is the policy an efficient way to assist investigations? Does the policy create an opportunity to gain intelligence? What is the cost benefit? What is the difficulty or ease of implementation? And lastly, would it garner congressional support needed to be implemented? The analysis revealed what I expected the results to show. The best policy, according to the criteria analyzed, was a national volunteer program which allows all domestic law enforcement agencies access to skilled and trained volunteers, able to tackle time-consuming aspects of CSAM investigations. The third policy option, the National Volunteer Program, met 4 out of the 5 criteria, while the National Crowdsourcing Model met 3 out of the 5, and maintaining the status quo only met 2 out of the 5 criteria. After determining the National Volunteer Program to likely be the best policy going forward, the next step is to begin the process of building a platform from which all law enforcement agencies could seek assistance on CSAM cases through a National Volunteer Program. One dedicated agency would implement the volunteer program and hire, background check, and train volunteers. These volunteers would then provide investigative assistance to any law enforcement agency seeking support. My recommendations going forward is for key stakeholders, law enforcement agencies, and experts to come together to determine how volunteers can serve most effectively. Once that is accomplished, experts can begin designing and building the platform from which all volunteers will work and receive their assignments. Once that is done, the program can be implemented by the designated agency. After concluding my research, several more questions arose. One thing that became clear is that there needs to be a great deal more research and data on how to get internet companies on board to do what is necessary to eliminate abusive material from their sites. With new pushes for end-to-end encryption on social media sites, it will be an open door for offenders to send abusive material with little fear of being caught. Additionally, research needs to be done on how to get children to disclose their sexual abuse without fear of repercussions. Too many victims suffer in silence without the ability or opportunity to disclose. The amount of images being disseminated around the world demonstrates a national and international problem. The more people involved in assisting in solving these cases, the greater chance we have as a nation to stop the spread of images and rescue victims. Increasing the number of images reviewed, offenders arrested, and victims rescued is necessary to slow the rise in images and punish those who continue to perpetrate these horrific crimes. My research found that a national volunteer program that uses skilled volunteers to assist law enforcement around the country in CSAM investigations could assist in accomplishing these goals. Citizen volunteers already assist law enforcement in a variety of ways. A coordinated effort between law enforcement and civilian volunteers in investigating CSAM serves to increase the efficiency of investigative hours, the viability of civilian open source intelligence investigations, and the ability of civilians to take meaningful steps towards combating CSAM. Civilian volunteers want to make a positive impact in their community. A national volunteer program supports volunteers in their efforts to help, while also assisting law enforcement to accomplish their objectives. Many of the children in these images are not able to rescue themselves. They can only wait in hopes to be saved, and these images offer clues to their rescue. Thank you for watching my presentation on my thesis, Leveraging the Community to Stop the Sexual Exploitation of Minors. If you are interested in the issues facing law enforcement regarding child sexual abuse material and how the public is already assisting law enforcement, I encourage you to visit the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's website, as well as the FBI's ECAP site and Europol's Trace an Object campaign. Thank you so much.